So in this problem, we're given a growth pattern, and we're asked to create a function that models this growth pattern. So I'm going to create a function where when I plug in the figure number, which we're going to use the letter n to represent, the figure number, when I plug in the figure number and follow some kind of rule that we create, the output that pops out is going to be the number of dots in that figure. So for example, in my first figure, when I plug in the figure number 1, the output will be 1 because there is one dot creating that first figure. And when I plug the figure number 2 into my function, the output will be 5 because there are 5 dots that create the second figure, and so on. So when I plug a 3 into my function representing the third figure, I'm going to end up with, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 dots, and so on. So how are we going to come up with a function that correctly predicts or models the number of dots in each figure? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for consistencies within my figures and how the figure is changing. And there's lots of different patterns you might see when you look at the figures. And the pattern you see will determine what your function looks like. So if you see a different pattern than me, you're going to get a different looking function. The pattern I see starts with having one dot in the middle. So every figure has one dot in the middle. And then there are arms growing off of that dot. So this first figure has a dot in the middle, and there are 4 arms, but there's nothing in any of the arms. So each arm has 0 dots in it. The second figure has a dot in the middle, and then each arm length is 1 dot. The next figure has a dot in the middle, and each arm length grows to 2 dots per arm. And the next figure has a dot in the middle, and the arm length has grown to 3 dots per arm. So when I go to write out my pattern so far, what I see is that the first figure has 1 dot in the middle, plus 4 arms with 0 dots per arm. The next figure has 1 dot in the middle, plus 4 arms with 1 dot per arm. Then we have 1 dot in the middle and 4 arms with 2 dots per arm. And for the fourth figure, we have 1 dot in the middle plus 4 arms with 3 dots per arm. So from the pattern I saw, I can start to generalize what's happening. I see the constant 1 appears in every single pattern, and I see the constant 4 also appears in every single pattern. What's changing is the length of each arm. So when I go to generalize my function as is, okay, so right now I'm plugging in a figure number into a function, and what I'm seeing is I have 1 plus 4 times something, where this 1 is representing the middle dot. Okay. The 4 is representing the number of arms. There are 4 arms in every figure, so that's a constant. And what I have to figure out is how to represent this part that's changing every single time. So when I put a figure number of 1 into my function, I want to get arm lengths of 0. And when I put a figure number of 2 into the function, I want to get arm lengths of 1. When I put a figure number of 3 into the function, I want arm lengths of 2, and so on. So with a fourth figure, when I plug in a 4, I want arm lengths of 3. So what I'm seeing is that the arm length is always 1 less than the figure number. So the observation I've made is that my arm length, I'm going to tape this down real quick so it won't move so much. There we go. Okay, so what I'm seeing is that my arm length is 1 less than the figure number. So instead of plugging an n into my function, which would be the exact figure number, I need to do the n minus 1. So I've created a function based on the patterns I saw in my figures that should work in every case. So now I need to test it out and make sure that it's accurately predicting the number of dots per each figure. So I'm going to test it over here. I'm going to test it for, I don't know, let's say this third figure. So when I plug in a figure number of 3, I better get out 9 dots. So I'm going to check my function. So my function says, when I plug in the figure number, I'm going to do 1 plus 4 times the figure number minus 1. So when I plug in a 3, figure number of 3, I really have 1 plus 4, 3 minus 1. And following my order of operations, I'm going to do inside the parentheses first. 3 minus 1 is 2. Then I'll multiply before I add. So I really have 1 plus 8, and when I add 1 plus 8, I end up getting 9, which works because in my third figure I had 9 dots. I would test this for several more figures to make sure it's accurate, and then once I'm convinced, then I know I've found a growth pattern that connects algebra with the geometry that I saw in my figures.